Great.
All right.
And
Everyone see that? We're recording? Okay, great.
yeah. And we know that we all know that BCDC has run into a problem on the Boylston Creek project and needs more funds. So we're in a dilemma here because we have this year more asks than we have money, and we're gonna have to be cutting something. So why don't you go through what you really, really, really need, Dave? And I understand you want from Laura that you want to finish by the end of this fiscal year. Is that correct?
Yeah. So, so first of all, thank you all for gathering to talk about this and for giving us the opportunity to present. We really appreciate it. And um, that's exactly right, Nancy. We run into an issue and come back to the town to try to finish this project, which thankfully is near completion. So what I thought I would do is I have a PowerPoint presentation. I won't take long with it. I can just
Okay.
run through it quickly if that's okay to sort of
Yes.
describe where things stand. Okay. Um, so uh
The PowerPoint's gone. Bring it back, please.
Oh, Dave's gonna share something instead of me.
yes. This is can you all see this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is just a very brief description of the project and where things stand. So this was the groundbreaking over the summer, and this is the property that many of you are familiar with. This is just at the beginning. I'm just showing the cover of the CPA agreement, of which I'm sure you're all aware and have on hand as well. So we were able to begin this project in the spring with the issuance of the RFP and the groundbreaking in June. And the discovery of the termite damage that brings us to you today was over the sort of end of the summer, beginning of September, as they took the envelope off the exterior of the building and discovered the damage underneath it. So that's the first image of some of the damage, as well as this is now higher up on the structure with the scaffolding in place, with a lot of the wood that had been rotted away, and even high up toward the roof of the building, additional damage to the structure that our contractor discovered. Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, Dave. Do you know whether the termites and the carpenter ants are still at work, or is this damage from some time ago?
It's a great question, Nancy. My understanding is that no, there were no active termites that were discovered in the property, but to prevent them from returning, we paid a pest control company to do a number of things, including spraying a substance whose name I don't recall, but Hallie might, on the exterior, on the wood, as well as inserting pest control in the ground around the structure as well.
Right.
Am I describing that right, Deborah? Yeah. So
okay.
Anyway, so yes, that's one of the questions that we asked when this was discovered is, what are we going to do about it? So to give you the other work in the building continued after the discovery of this damage. So at the moment, we've done most of the interior work. I would say is substantially complete. There was just a punch list walkthrough, of course, to identify some issues that need to be resolved, and finishes that aren't flush, and the normal things that you find in renovation projects. And
question,
yeah,
David. These are items beyond the CPA grant, like electrical work, or the kitchens and baths. So you have other funding and other work has been going on in addition to the CPA.
Exactly right. I could have described that better at the beginning. This project, while we got a generous CPA award to achieve the rest of the work and to finish the rest of the project, we've been relying on ARPA funding, CDBG grants, particularly for the kitchens and baths, as well as the electrical work. and state money as well. So that includes, for example, climate ready housing funding and other sources, and at Massachusetts CEC, the Clean Energy Center. So that's how the heat pumps come to be on the roof, and and other items. So the result of that is that we've, to date, the kitchens have been, this is an example of a finished kitchen in the building and an example of a finished bathroom in the building. And these are the new heat pumps that are sitting on the roof. Now, there's still work to be done. Part of that is, as you'll see in a couple slides, we have a project schedule. Some of this is that we've been going back and forth with MassDOT and Eversource, because MassDOT controls Route 9, which you can't see just over the roof between the Homewood Suites and our property, but MassDOT controls that highway, and so there's some complexity about getting the electrical service upgrade and permits needed to do the digging and the trench work and a bunch of things that are beyond the scope of what we're discussing here. But in short, the project is headed very far down the tracks to completion. And we went out and solicited a bid by our contractor to finish the rear wall of the structure, to repair it and to make it safe, because this is the second means of egress. This is the rear stairwell of the structure. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but this yellow stack here is the rear of the structure. This is the front of the structure that faces Route 9. And the rear of the structure is the second means of egress. So the Brookline Fire Department and others were, insistent that structure be safe, of course, for the residents to use it if, God forbid, there were a need. And so anyway, Deborah and Hallie went back and forth with our contractor for a long time to work on this bid, to reduce the costs, and to really, and ended up going with this time and materials approach to the project to basically be as rigorous as possible about lowering costs. And instead of just picking a high number for the repair, they went into it, going line by line through the items that are needed to repair this back wall and do so. And Hallie has been having regular check-in meetings about that work with the contractor. This is just an example of a schedule that our contractor has been providing us to do this work, and breaking down what's happening on what day of the repairs on the rear wall work. This is too small for people to see. Obviously, I just wanted to show that there's a larger project schedule that this fits into. This is an enlarged detail, which may still be too small, and I apologize if that's the case. We can, of course, send all of this in email or send a blown up version. But the good news is that this project is still anticipated to be completed in late March. The reality is we're still not sure, speaking of the Eversource upgrade issue, we're still not exactly sure about that. And there's still some questions about the delivery of the windows, which are necessary because of the required insulation to make this a climate-friendly structure. But basically, assuming that there are no additional trade wars or tariff delays or whatever you could imagine, and assuming that that Eversource does indeed come through in early March, and connect and change over the building so that we can use the heat pumps and get the benefit of the climate upgrades. This work can still be completed in late March, provided that we have sufficient funding to complete it. So and then this is just a description. This was the email that was sent out last night to me and others on the project about the getting into more of the specifics about what it is that they're working on at the structure now and in February. So that's basically the presentation. I know that there's probably more questions, but that's what I wanted to share with all of you, just to give you a sense of sort of where things are from our perspective.
Can I add one thing? And that's and David referenced this, but there's a sense of urgency to this.
Right.
The delay will create more damage to the building. One. Two, he did talk about the safety issue that the town has pointed out to us in ensuring that that there's a second egress as well.
Yeah.
So
That's yes. And this was, speaking of the urgency issue, I mean, the Brookline Fire Department was at this structure a lot in November and December, even October as well. And this is a 6-unit structure. We have young children living in this building. And all of us agreed that of course, the number one priority is safety. And particularly with families with young children in the building, we feel a real sense of urgency to get this work done and make sure that they have a safe second means to exit the building. So yeah, and some of them, as I just think about this, some of them also have physical challenges and disabilities as well. So even more reason to make sure that we, again, get
Right.
this work done and are able to make the structure safe. I can stop
Yep.
sharing at this point, or if somebody has a question, I'm happy to go back to a previous slide. Yeah, I see Steve.
I have a number of questions. I'm looking at the first page of your application, which mentions I'm the HAB representative, Dave. I know we saw you at the HAB meeting, and it says you were looking for this as part of this specific additional funding request for a chunk of money from the HAB that actually is larger than what you're asking for from CPA. But this is urgent, and you say the project's going to be completed by May or by March. I'm not sure, and this is basically an amendment to what was it, your 2025 funding from CPA for the Boylston Street project. So one question is, if you need this, if you have to do this now, maybe Dave or Nancy can clarify this, but can we even give you money before this goes to a town meeting vote in May to approve our funding request? And if you have to do the work now, how are you going to pay for it if you don't get money? I mean, you haven't even come to the HAB for I mean, the HAB can respond more quickly, but I'm not sure how this, within your overall schedule, how this is working.
Well,
Yes.
we can,
Sorry, go ahead.
we have an application. We've approved it. Town meeting has funded it. So it's not like we have to start at the beginning of the grant cycle. This is an amendment or an addition to an existing project. And the warrant is closing on the February 25th. So if we add an item to that warrant for this additional money and town meeting votes it, then it's
The town meeting doesn't meet until May.
right. But that's not until May. So that's the question.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the best case scenario for CPA. So how does that?
So do we not have an alternative method to use some funds that we've got in reserve to add to an existing grant? Is that an alternative that's available to us?
That's still a town meeting question. I
Uh-huh.
mean, if we're going to spend any more money, we need to have town meeting weigh in, But, I mean, this is an urgent question, and one of the things that the select board has the right to do is to call a special town meeting, and it could be, they can do it within a couple of weeks. And I think, and it's not a particularly controversial thing, I don't think. I mean, we'd have to, it would be good to have other towns and other town organizations weigh in before that, like the advisory committee, et cetera. But here's the question, Dave. If we do an amendment of the contract, and I've looked at it, and it is very, very specific about what you're spending the money on. So we would have to amend the grant agreement, which is not an
Right.
issue. That's not a problem. It's the additional money. And originally my thought was, well, we could, amend it and then go for an additional amount in, say, November. so we wouldn't have to put our current grantees at a disadvantage. But that doesn't sound like it's going to work. So the next thing is, can we, in the current year that we're in, can we squeeze some more money out of the CPA? And we'd have to look at that. I mean, I haven't looked at it. But, one possibility is that there are some grantees that have either fallen by the wayside or spent less, or, and we may have some excess there. So we just have to analyze that before we give you an answer, really.
Sure.
So, and I'd be interested in whether or not you guys have any of your own resources that you could, while you plan it while you're planning it for future projects, whether you could use that to pay this off, and then we could continue on with that plan of either town meeting in June, or town meeting next November. So is that a possibility?
Well, I think it's certainly something that we can consider and talk through. I think one thing I wanted to do, Hallie sent me and Deborah a document that breaks down. I see, Laura, that you had your hand up as well, so I don't want to delay your question, but I also, I wanted to respond to Steve as well, because believe me, I find this confusing, but there is an explanation. So Hallie put together a breakdown of all the sources that we are using to fund the project, as well as what the CPA funding would go toward versus what the additional funding from the HAB would go toward. So it's not that the work would necessarily be the same. It's all to complete the same project, but this funding request is specifically for the ongoing work to repair the rear wall of the building versus the HAB funds. And this is where it might be useful for Hallie to weigh in. This is the subtotal of the hard costs, which I think, and you'll see here, if this is confusing, I'm just giving a quick overview. And I know that I'm sort of overwhelming the group, or I fear that I'm overwhelming the group with documentation, but just to go through this quickly, and Hallie can probably speak to it better than I can. The pending exposure for the CPA is what we're discussing here. This is the sill reconstruction, the rear wall reconstruction, scaffolding, and additional hard cost contingency as we do this work, which is the 284. The HAB exposure, the reason, Steve, that you haven't seen that come across is because there are a lot of additional items that we're going to be discussing with the HAB, but they're different, right? There's the radiator capping, the repointing of the patio, the front retaining wall, the solar work, and other items that are part of what's going on is that obviously with this unanticipated damage and a renovation of a many-year-old building, there were additional items that were discovered. So anyway, I just wanted to sort of clear that up, as well as speak to the fact that, I think certainly from BCDC's perspective, we're looking to finish this project as quickly as possible, and the rear wall and the termite damage that's currently being repaired, I think is the most urgent need for the project, more so than the rest of this funding. But Hallie, did I misdescribe your document?
No, I think that's exactly right.
So-
So
Go
Nancy,
ahead,
you may
Sue,
not
you
be
had
able
your
to
hand.
see that, I have my hand up. Oh,
Yeah.
no, I didn't. I'm sorry, Sue. No, I didn't see it. Go ahead. Ironically, I think this raises sort of a bigger point that the CPAC's been having conversations about, and is like highly relevant, which is the lack of flexibility of CPAC to respond quickly to various financial needs of a project
which comes up in many different contexts, but this is a perfect example where we have all these different kinds of constraints, both on what kind of work can be completed, but also when we can provide the funds, unless just ironically we have money socked away somewhere, which I doubt that we would come up with this amount of money. So in some ways, the HAB is the more flexible place to go. So Steve, I don't want to be pushing this all over to the HAB, but I think there's stuff that we can't do that the HAB can do. But there's also stuff that the HAB can do that we can also do, but why not let the HAB take the lead on this, as what I'm saying here, because they can act more quickly, they can meet the need. And I think there's a number of constraints that Nancy and David have already pointed out in terms of the funding cycle that we have to deal with. And that it may not make sense for us to be the ones stepping up. I understand that there's an interest in kind of dividing up the asks so that nobody's getting socked too hard as between the two committees. But if there's an urgency to it, I don't think the CPAC is really the right place to go because we do have so many constraints. So that my suggestion might be that we see how the HAB reacts and whether or not there's more flexibility on the HAB side.
Well, I can't speak for the entire HAB, but I certainly agree with you. I mean, the HAB in theory could take on all of this work. I mean, I was wondering just under the funding that was being requested from CPA, whether CPA typically funds soft costs like attorney's fees and things like that. I mean, I don't know whether that's allowed, even if the project meets the preservation criteria, whether that includes some of those soft costs. And I also know that even on this table, what's being asked of the HAB, and these all sound like additional, is your contingency all used up without any, I mean, this sounds like a lot of other maybe unanticipated, but perhaps should have been anticipated costs. Dryer vents, painting the units, things like that. I don't know why those are showing up at this point. But in theory, the HAB could fund this whole thing. But I also noticed on the front page of the application, the original budget summary, there's an asterisk that says the HAB may be also asked to fund additional, tenant support, rental assistance. That's another, I don't know, $50,000, $70,000 of, because the ask for HAB on that document is more like 440, not 380 with that asterisk. So maybe rental assistance is something that the CPA would be better positioned to do. And if it isn't something that also needs to be done immediately, I don't know what the time frame for that is, but I agree with Sue that this whole thing may be better put into the HAB's court because you could have the money in a month.
Yeah. Now, let me add to what Steve's saying here. What would happen if CPAC appropriated the money via HAB? I mean, and HAB can award the money now, and then we, in effect, reimburse HAB for the CPA portion. I mean, I think it's definitely important that the HAB and the CPAC collaborate on these projects, as we did with the Walnut High. This is another example, another way where we could utilize each in its own way and, create more matches and more opportunities.
So Nancy, I have my hand up again.
Oh, sorry. Well, the screen takes up the whole,
I can
screen
stop
share.
sharing. I can stop sharing.
Well, I think it's a general issue that Nancy sometimes doesn't see the hands.
No, and the computer cuts off the top of it. And when you're at the top of the screen, I don't see the hand raised.
That's why I keep speaking up
so
like
I'm
that.
sorry, I blame it on technology.
I've got to leave in like 2 minutes. So
Okay, well, I'll
you
be
have to go on
incredibly
without me.
brief, which is, David, I get the gist of what you're saying, and I couldn't agree more that we should be working collaboratively with the HAB. But I don't get how the CPAC would be giving even the HAB the money unless it was pursuant to the pending application that the HAB has to the CPAC, and that wouldn't come through till after town meeting. So that, I don't think that is necessarily
Well,
a
and after a
solution.
grant agreement is executed as well,
Right,
so
that's
Mhm.
right.
it's
So
a two-step thing, yeah.
yeah, I
I
agree.
agree. I don't think that's a practical solution in this situation. I do think that, there are, I don't know, I have to think about how, we could, potentially do it. And I think I'm not coming up with an answer at this moment. I think
I'm
So
now,
correct.
is
The
it
HAB
okay
does
if
not
I,
already, the HAB is not one of the funding sources previously for this project. Is that right?
Correct.
Mhm.
but you've gotten
Okay.
ARPA and CDBG monies as well. And
Yes.
where are the other monies from?
So let me just pull that. Sorry, I keep not wanting to
That's okay, go ahead.
to take up the
People
whole
can
screen.
shout out if they have a question. Okay,
Um, so we have CPA, ARPA, CDBG. There's two columns here. One is electrical and one is kitchens and baths. Mass CEC, lean, DOER, and then there's one other. So it's a combination of a number of sources.
right.
Okay, I've
And
got to
what about
go.
your own fundraising?
Okay, thank you, Steve. Thank you. Good to see you.
Thanks. Bye.
Dave, what about your own fundraising? Have you been able to succeed in that?
Well, I don't think we've put any of our own, you mean apart from grants, like private
Yeah,
donations? Is that
yeah,
what you're saying? Yeah, so
yeah,
the private grants, sort of to Steve's point, we have this Boylston Street project, but we also have the Beacon Street renovation for our property
right.
at 1017 Beacon, as well as emergency rental assistance and the other things that BCDC is working on. The private donations that we've received are mostly going toward, I would say, administrative capacity for the organization, as well as the
Right,
other.
staff
Yeah,
costs, yeah, okay,
yeah,
that makes
exactly.
sense. But CPA did our first go round, we did a $250,000 grant for support. And I assume what you're saying, and Deborah, is that that's gone, that's finished?
We've pretty much expended all of the CPA rental assistance money. And
Okay,
starting in December, we started using we got $129,000 in the HAB. So we're gonna start drawing down on that.
okay,
It's frankly one of the things that we learned. So our partner on that work, Nancy, is the Metro West Collaborative Development.
right,
And I think they used to be the Watertown CDC back in the day, but that there's like, I think 43 cities and towns that they cover in their catchment area. It's basically all of Metro West, like Newton.
they administer the program.
Correct. They
You would,
administer the program
yeah,
and disperse the funds for our
right,
emergency rental assistance program, even though it's our community organizer who's doing the face-to-face counseling.
right,
But they process some of the paperwork and actually, help review the applicants and things like that. But Metro West actually let us know last week Brookline's one of the only cities and towns in their entire catchment area that is still, you know, able to provide rental assistance. And that they were just remarking about that to me, that the needs have increased over the past year as
obviously,
funding
yeah.
has been cut, and
It's no
that
mystery.
Yeah.
Could we stop
You-
sharing the screen?
yes, absolutely.
You know, one of the other interesting things about rental assistance is when you look at the West Metro information about the financial condition or the poverty rates for Metro West, Brookline is right up there with Framingham.
Right.
It's not like we get to compare ourselves with Dover or Weston or the community, or Newton, the communities we think of ourselves as being more closely aligned with. But really, it's more with I guess the more struggling communities. And
Right.
I will tell you that when we started the rental assistance program, I thought, well, this should be enough money, you know. But one of the things that I have seen is just the counseling is tremendous. If I heard a story about a woman we're counseling who got her hand shot off by an abusive husband. Living in Brookline, and I hear stories like this. I sit and I meet with people who have mental illness, and they are doing everything that they can do. We are working with Brookline Housing Authority closely. I mean, and some of those are just difficult cases. We're working with the Brookline Center to figure out how we can defray some of the time that we're spending counseling to them. And it's like people they just keep coming.
Right.
And so I don't see that need going away anytime soon because of just the economic realities of where we are. But to the extent that we can partner with people to try to, reduce some of the expenses that we have with the rental assistance program, we are trying. And I'll be honest with you, I work for free. And I have my own mini caseload, sadly. But it's the only way that we're going to be able to get all of this, to be responsive to people who are in dire circumstances. And
Yeah. Well, you don't have to convince us, Deborah, because that's why we funded the program and your full ask went in,
yeah,
the first year. So we know that the reality is that we're not like Dover and we're not like Weston. So, but
I didn't know it.
we know it. Many people in Brookline may not, but we do. At any rate, so I think the question is, how can we?
So how can we make this happen?
Yeah, how can we
Well,
make this
what
happen?
what I'm hearing loud and clear is that perhaps we should take the whole application to the HAB.
Yep, I
And
think that would be really smart.
And I bet we could get that done by, what's today, Thursday? I bet we could get that in by Monday. All it involves is moving some cells on an Excel spreadsheet. Hallie's sitting there going, oh no, Deborah, you didn't put that on me again. And just sort of tweaking the narrative. But there is an imperative about this. And if I didn't understand that time is money, just in terms of the general day-to-day things, when it comes to construction, time is a lot of money. And Dave's right. Hallie, I think, wanted to take a shoe to me because I was just so outraged at the costs that people were saying that we had to pay for that back wall and sill. Now, the reality is Hallie came up with a solution to help us get the cost down. But on
And I
any,
notice it's down from your request.
well, that was because we took the shoe and Hallie went hardball with the contractor.
Mm-hmm.
We went out and we talked to, contractually, it's not so easy to just bring somebody else in. Because I was evil enough to say, I think I'll find somebody else to do the sill and back wall. I think I can get a better price. And then I was advised, you do have a contract with these people and it might be breach. So, but we went back with those new numbers to bring the price down and we were able to do it.
Great.
I feel like somebody else might have had their hand up. I was going to say one more thing, but I don't want to. Laura, was it you?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, so David, you all already covered everything I was going to say, and the ideas you brought up was already in my mind, but would just say, yeah, it sounds like you know, the HAB is probably the way to go with your urgent ask right now, but I would just say that something for the HAB to consider, because they already have an existing application before the CPAC for this year. I mean, it's $1 million, but you know, that which is probably more than what you all can spare, but just to keep this ask or the rental assistance, you know, maybe there's some agreement that could be struck with the HAB for, you know, not necessarily this work that they would have to pay for. I don't think there's a way for you to like reimburse them per se, but you could say for an ongoing thing like rental assistance, right? You could say, well, we'll give X amount of money for the ongoing work of the rental assistance that then they wouldn't have to do later or something like that. You know, just, I think that was a really
the problem with that strategy, is that we have over $6 million in asks and only $4 million in revenue. So
right, yeah, it's not going to be $1 million, but
it's not going to be so easy. It's not going to be easy.
Right, understood.
And so, you know, I wouldn't even want to rely on that at this point. Rely on anything about our current budget. So for next year, that is. For anything, because whatever we do, if we add to it, we have to subtract from the requests. There's just no question, no getting around that.
But what I'm hearing from Laura is that we sort of have an understanding when it comes to the rental assistance, a growing need. That's something we can do. And so we divide our roles and continue with that. The HAB's not involved with that. We do that. And in return, HAB's doing this because they're better suited to meeting this urgent need, and they have a more flexibility in what they can fund.
I think we could do that. I mean,
but we can't do it. We can't do it this year. I mean, you know, this grant cycle
yeah,
is all I'm saying to you.
I hear you, but because these programs,
and I don't know what next grant cycle is going to bring. We do know it's going to bring in less revenue. So we still don't know how many grants we're going to get, asks, et cetera. So,
yeah.
But yes, David's right. We can do more in that area if we have the revenue. So, you know, that's something to look to the future.
Right.
Yeah, and the rental assistance is important because if the alternative is homelessness, then the costs for everybody.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
You know, it's horrifying to think that the people are struggling so much they can't pay their rent because, you know, and these are Section 8, right?
Well, not just Section 8. I would.
What?
A fair number of them are Section 8. They're low income. Some of them, you know, we've had people who are getting no assistance, but that are still low income because, you know, they didn't qualify for Section 8, you know, they're limited vouchers, et cetera.
Yeah.
But, you know, I would say that probably about a third of the people that we're helping are elderly.
Yeah.
There's also a lot of public housing residents that aren't Section 8. So it's actually been very beneficial to the Housing Authority to have this program going because in an indirect way, it's supporting our operating budget.
Yeah. Right. Well, yeah. I mean, I just saw the line out the door at the food pantry when I came in today, as another indication of the level of need. I was going to say something else, but it's not really necessary for the whole group. But I was just going to say, I mean, because again, Steve asked the question, but he's not here. Hallie and I we'll talk to you to make sure there's explanations for why we're coming back to request the funds for the from the HAB for those other costs that Steve was mentioning, but without Steve here, I don't think it makes sense.
Well, some of those costs probably can't be covered, like dryer vents can't be covered, for instance, I don't think, by the CPA. We're in, CPA is interested in the preservation and of buildings and preservation of what we've got, basically.
Exactly. That's where I was going, Nancy. Exactly right.
Okay.
I was going to answer that.
I mean, it is one of the limitations of CPA, and that's just the way it is. I mean, that's the statute, and
exactly.
You know, I think.
So, Dave, a question. You did a presentation to HAB last week, I think, and how was it left? Are they?
Sorry, go ahead, David.
No, just how was it left? I sort of understood that they said we'll come back in February and make a decision, or?
So Deborah and I talked prior to the January meeting of the HAB and said, and decided because they placed us on the agenda knowing that there was going to be a request. And after talking, I talked with Roger last week or the week before, and the two of us mutually agreed that we would delay our application to the HAB until February, when we would have submitted the CPA request, had more conversations, and thought more about how to play all of this out. And so our request to the HAB hasn't been submitted, and there were a few questions that were asked by members of the HAB that will have to be answered in our submission to the HAB. So that's going to be part of what we end up submitting when we submit it. Deborah said Monday. I think she means Tuesday, after all of us are at the Coolidge Corner Theater on Monday to celebrate the legacy of Dr. King.
Dr. King would appreciate us working to get our
Yes.
housing repaired as part of a recognition of Martin Luther King's birthday.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm from Texas, you know, the whole different thing. Nancy knows.
Well,
I
anyway,
know,
you
I'm from Texas too. We have that in common. Anyway,
so you got some questions, so now you know what they want to know
okay.
about.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah, it was very helpful. I mean, I ended up giving the presentation just about the damage and some other issues, and there were some questions which we'll make sure to include in our answer and our request to the HAB.
Okay.
But thank you guys so much. I mean,
Okay, so
we're
any
walking
other
away with
questions?
no, but I
Any
think we're walking away with a path forward, and that's always
Okay,
helpful.
all right.
Agreed.
Any other questions from anybody or comments? All right, well, we wish you luck, and we're hoping that it works out. It was obviously a project that we believed in and supported it, and a couple of years ago. How's the Beacon Street going? Just by the by.
Well, now you have to talk, Nancy. I got to tell you, I don't want to say that I'm cheap, but I am frugal.
That's a better word.
And when
Okay.
I see numbers that are too high, between that and the mass disabilities requirement that says all of a sudden that we have to make the interior of a chunk of the building handicap accessible, that adds about another $750,000
Yeah,
to the project.
it doesn't surprise me. Yeah.
We did get a waiver though. We
got a waiver?
We got a variance from the Architectural Access Board.
Oh, that's great. That's unusual.
Well, we can grovel, but what it meant was we've had to redesign some things. We're talking with Hallie about, the actual bids that we've received and where the cuts can be made. And even for that matter, can we just front load? Like, I just want to front load the CPA. I just want to front load the back wall and the windows, and then let the other work happen in time. And that's the plan. But,
So Deborah, will you be finished? So I don't remember when the grant agreement was signed, but you have 2 years from then, unless
Right.
you request.
Oh, we'll be finished
request
long
a-
before that.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't remember exactly when that ends, but
I
I
think
can look
it's
it up.
June
Part of
2026.
I think part of Deborah will probably punch me, but part of you're asking about Beacon Street, Nancy. Part of what we have in our office
Yeah.
is like some show and tell products, because we've been reviewing with Hallie the various options for the back wall to sufficiently insulate the structure of the building. So yes, I'm Vanna White in this case, just showing the back wall. But it's anyway, the answer is Beacon continues, and we're still looking at the various options to.
Okay.
But
My only point is,
we're going to be knocking things down, hopefully by late March, early April.
okay, but
We
my
have a
point,
contractor. We
Deborah,
went through all that. Yeah.
my point, Deborah, is that as long as you request an extension, given that it looks like you'd be going over the 2 years, you just need to shoot us a letter or an email or something saying you appreciate an extension for X amount of time. I don't think we could do it for more than another 2 years, but
God,
No, God,
no, don't say that now.
Okay, anyway, I'm just bringing that up. I don't want it to get lost in the
No,
shuffle.
no. Glad
Okay.
that you did. Glad that you did.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Okay, well, this was productive and
Absolutely.
we'll
Thank you
talk
again.
soon. Thanks.
Okay.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Okay, we're sticking on here, right? Good.
Okay, yeah.
You can stop
Oh, yeah, let me
transcribing.
stop the recording.
Oh, you did?